The gavel crashed down like a thunderclap, its echo ricocheting off the cold marble walls of the courtroom, a sound that felt like it could sever hope itself. The air thickened, every whisper and rustle of paper dying instantly, a heavy, electric silence blanketed the room, charged with the weight of what was to come. High on the dais, Judge Beryl Howell sat like a statue carved from granite, her face unreadable, her presence looming over the chamber like a storm cloud. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, locked onto Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who stood at the defense table, her spine straight as steel, her gaze a quiet fire. There was no tremor in her stance, no flicker of fear, only a calm, so steady it seemed, to hum with secrets as if she held a truth the judge could never grasp. Congresswoman Crockett, Judge Howell's voice sliced through the stillness, cold as a winter blade, each word deliberate, meant to wound. This court has heard enough. Your actions are a blatant, defiant mockery of the decorum and authority of these proceedings. I find you in contempt. The words landed like a guillotine's fall, final and unyielding. The crowd stirred, a low murmur of outrage rippling through the onlookers. This was it, the moment of punishment, the silencing of a voice that dared to rise. To them, Judge Howell was the embodiment of an untouchable establishment, her gavel a weapon to crush the young black woman who had challenged its iron grip. It wasn't just an attack on Crockett, it was a slap to every heart that saw their own struggle mirrored in her defiance. The judge's lips twitched, a faint, triumphant curl, as if she'd already won. But then Jasmine Crockett spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. It was low, steady, rich with the weight of a lifetime spent fighting in courtrooms, a voice that could unravel arrogance with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Every syllable carried the strength of someone who'd faced giants and walked away unbroken. With all due respect, Your Honor, Crockett began, her eyes locked on the judge, unwavering, alive with conviction. Your finding of contempt, while noted, holds no legal ground. By your own precedent in the Perkins Coy case, and I quote, the authority of the court must not be used to punish disfavored expression. Your ruling hinges on a personal political disdain for my tone, not the law itself. You're wielding your power to silence dissent, Your Honor, and that violates not only due process, but the very rulings you've upheld. The judge's face, a fortress of stone moments ago, faltered, a flicker of shock betraying her composure. The room froze, the collective breath of the spectators caught in their throats. The audacity of Crockett's words was breathtaking, but it was their precision that struck like lightning. She hadn't just challenged the judge, she'd turned Howell's own words into a mirror, exposing the cracks in her authority. Howell's grip on the gavel tightened, her knuckles paling, her once unassailable power now teetering on the edge. She was poised to deliver a verdict, but Crockett had flipped the script. Now it was the judge on trial. This courtroom wasn't just a stage for legal sparring. It was a crucible for the soul of a nation, a battleground where the old guard clashed with a fearless new voice. Judge Beryl Howell sat as a towering symbol of the establishment, her authority forged over decades, her robes a shield against the messy human cries for justice that fueled Jasmine Crockett. To Howell, the law was a cold, unyielding machine, a bulwark of order and tradition. But to Crockett, it was a living force, a shield for the powerless, a sword against corruption. The stakes burned brighter than the contempt charge itself. This was a reckoning. For too long, Americans had watched the powerful skate free, cloaked in procedure and privilege, while trust in justice crumbled into cynicism. But here, in this moment, a spark of hope flickered. Crockett wasn't just a congresswoman. She was a public defender who'd spent her life fighting for the voiceless. Her calm was their strength, her voice their anthem. If she could stand unbowed before this judge's wrath, if she could dismantle a ruling with nothing but her mind and the law, it would be a beacon for every soul crushed by a system that felt rigged. For Howell, this wasn't just a challenge to her gavel. It was an assault on her entire worldview. The rules, the decorum, the traditions she revered were being questioned, her fortress of authority shaken. Her next move wouldn't just decide Crockett's fate, it would signal to the nation whether justice was truly for all or reserved for the elite. The room held its breath, the world watching as a clash of wills unfolded. Howell leaned forward, her eyes blazing with unspoken threats, her silence a weapon of its own. But what happened next when Jasmine Crockett made her next move would sear itself into the nation's memory, a moment of raw, unshakable courage. Before the gavel fell, before the world held its breath, Judge Beryl Howell was a name whispered in the quiet halls of power, a figure of cold, unshakable authority. She'd climbed the ranks not with charm, but with a fierce devotion to precedent, a gatekeeper of a system she believed was sacred. To her, the law was a fortress, its rules unbendable, its guardians beyond reproach. Passion, defiance, the raw emotion of modern politics. She saw these as threats to the Republic's foundation, contaminants to the pure logic of justice. In Jasmine Crockett, Howell saw everything she despised. A disruptor, a firebrand, a woman whose unapologetic voice and fierce empathy challenged the sterile order of her courtroom. To Howell, Crockett's defiance wasn't courage, it was chaos. Her contempt charge wasn't personal, it was righteous, a necessary act to restore order. She was certain she'd prevail, certain she'd silence this upstart politician. She was wrong. She hadn't counted on Crockett's brilliance, her mastery of the law, her ability to wield it like a blade. Howell thought she was facing a politician grandstanding for attention. She didn't realize she was up against a legal titan, a woman who'd spent her life honing her craft in the trenches. By asserting her power so publicly, Howell had set a trap and walked right into it. To understand the weight of this moment, you have to know Jasmine Crockett, not the Congresswoman, but the woman forged in the crucible of public defense. She wasn't born into privilege or marble halls. Her world was one of frayed nerves and broken dreams, where the system chewed up the powerless and spat them out. As a public defender, she stood beside the forgotten. Mothers fighting for their children, fathers stripped of dignity by a callous machine. Every case hardened her empathy into resolve, her frustration into purpose. The law wasn't just rules to her. It was a language she'd mastered to give voice to the silenced. She grew tired of fighting one case at a time, of patching wounds in a broken system. So she took her fight to Congress, trading the courtroom for the Capitol. Her passion, now a megaphone for the people she'd always defended. She carried their stories, their pain, their hope into every speech, every bill. Unlike Howell, who saw the law as a monument, Crockett saw it as a tool for justice, shaped by the hands of those who wielded it with heart. This moment, this courtroom, was the culmination of her life's work. Every trial, every late-night brief, every tear shed for a client, it had all led here. She wasn't just fighting a contempt charge, she was fighting for the soul of the law itself. And Howell, with her gavel and her certainty, had no idea who she was up against. The judge's face cracked, her mask of control slipping. She'd expected a plea, a retreat, anything but this, a direct challenge to her very philosophy. Contradiction, Howell hissed, her voice low and venomous, trembling with barely contained rage. I am upholding the dignity of this court. Your political theatrics have no place here, Congresswoman. Crockett's response was a velvet blade, smooth and cutting. With all due respect, Your Honor, the law isn't a stage for politics, it's a framework for justice. That framework demands impartial reasoning, not a vendetta against my tone. Howell's knuckles whitened around the gavel, her face flushed with fury. The room felt smaller, the air thick with tension. The spectators, journalists, aides, ordinary citizens, were no longer just watching. They were part of history unfolding. Howell tried to regain control. I will not tolerate this insubordination, she snapped, her voice rising, cracking under the strain. Your words are an attack on this court's integrity. My words are grounded in the law, Crockett replied, her calm a stark contrast to the judge's unraveling. The First Amendment protects my expression. My so-called insubordination is legal advocacy, not defiance. Your own ruling in Perkins Coie, which you seem to forget, says a court cannot punish speech it dislikes. You're contradicting yourself, Your Honor. Howell's eyes widened, a flicker of desperation breaking through. She was being outmaneuvered, her own words weaponized against her. Every attempt to shut Crockett down was met with a precise, unassailable citation. This wasn't a shouting match. It was a surgical dismantling of the judge's authority. Are you suggesting I'm biased? Howell demanded, her voice betraying a tremor of doubt. "I'm suggesting," Crockett said, her tone steady as a heartbeat, "that your ruling contradicts your own legal record. I'm not questioning your character, Your Honor. I'm questioning your consistency." A murmur swept the room, soft but electric. This was no ordinary exchange. It was a masterclass in legal warfare. Howell, so used to deference, was losing ground, her every move countered by a woman who knew the law's heart better than its gatekeepers. A journalist in the front row typed furiously, sensing the story of the decade. The judge's face tightened, a bead of sweat glistening on her brow. She'd walked into a trap she couldn't escape. Howell's composure was crumbling, her fortress of authority exposed as fragile. She'd prepared for defiance, for emotion, but not for this. A relentless, airtight legal assault. Crockett took a step forward, her presence commanding the room, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried like a tidal wave. "Your Honor," she said, "you speak of decorum, of dignity, but let me remind you of Justice Brandeis in his dissent in Olmsted versus United States." A gasp rippled through the crowd. The reference was obscure, a scholar's weapon pulled from the depths of legal history. A law clerk's pen froze, his eyes wide with awe. "Brandeis wrote," Crockett continued, her voice rising like a preacher's, filled with conviction, "the greatest dangers to liberty lurk in insidious encroachment by men of zeal, well-meaning but without understanding. You, Your Honor, are zealous. But your zeal to punish what you call disrespect has blinded you to the law's truth." The judge's face was a portrait of shock, her retort caught in her throat. Crockett pressed on, her words a crescendo of power and precision. "You've tried to use contempt as a tool of censorship, betraying the principles of free expression you've sworn to uphold. You've created a conflict, not between me and this court, but between your own rulings and the justice you claim to serve." The room was silent, the air heavy with the weight of her words. This wasn't a debate. It was a reckoning. Crockett's voice softened, but its strength was undeniable. "A contempt charge must stem from disruption, not disagreement. I haven't disrupted this court, Your Honor. I've defended it. Defended its integrity with the law itself. Your order isn't justice. It's overreach, plain and simple." She'd done it. She'd turned the tables, transforming herself from defendant to accuser, the judge from arbiter to symbol of flawed power. The journalist in the front row was already tweeting, the clip destined to go viral. Howell's face was a mask of defeat, her confidence shattered. The courtroom knew they'd witnessed something extraordinary. A woman of color, a public defender turned congresswoman, dismantling a titan with nothing but her mind and the law's truth. The cameras caught it all. Howell's stunned silence, the journalists' frantic typing, the onlookers' faces lit with awe and pride. When the clip hit the internet, it didn't just spread, it exploded. A 6-second soundbite of Crockett's final line, "Your order is not an act of justice, it is an act of vindictive overreach," looped endlessly, shared millions of times. Hashtags like #LegalGenius and Crockett vs. Howell trended globally. Memes of Crockett's poised defiance and Howell's bewildered expression flooded social media, turning a courtroom clash into a cultural phenomenon. Cable news reeled. A veteran legal analyst, voice thick with emotion, said, "I've never seen a witness dismantle a judge's reasoning so brilliantly, so publicly. This is history." A former prosecutor admitted she didn't just win the argument, she won the soul of justice. That clip will be studied for generations. Celebrities amplified the moment. A comedian tweeted, "This woman is a force of nature. Protect Jasmine Crockett at all costs." An actor simply wrote, "Courage in action." Politicians scrambled. Democrats hailed Crockett as a hero, her victory a balm for years of frustration. Republicans tried to spin it as disrespect, but their words fell flat against the undeniable truth of the footage. The public had decided this was a triumph of integrity over arrogance. For the people watching, it was more than a win, it was validation. A moment that said their anger at a rigged system wasn't futile. Crockett's calm, her brilliance, her refusal to bow, it was their story too. They shared the clip not just to celebrate, but to declare they'd no longer be silenced. The gavel hung in the air, a symbol of power now impotent. Crockett stood tall, her breath steady, her eyes scanning the room. Not in triumph, but in purpose. "Your Honor?" she said, her voice soft but resolute. This was never about contempt or personal slights. This was about what the law is for. It's not a club for the powerful to wield. It's a shield for the people, all people, to find justice and speak their truth. The camera lingered on her face, a portrait of grace under fire. She hadn't shouted, hadn't sneered. She'd let the law speak, and it roared. Her eyes met the crowd's, a silent promise. This victory was theirs too. For every person told to stay in their place, for every voice dismissed, she'd fought and won. My colleagues may have titles, and judges may have gavels, she said, her voice swelling with quiet power. But our true authority comes from the people we serve, from the integrity we bring to the fight, from the dignity we carry in the face of arrogance. The room erupted, not in cheers, but in a shared breath of awe, of hope reborn. The air no longer felt heavy with tension, but alive with possibility. Young law students, grizzled reporters, even the judge herself, they all sat in a moment of reckoning. The old era of untouchable power was over. A new age of dignity had begun. This wasn't just a courtroom drama. It was a testament to courage, to knowledge, to the unyielding power of truth. Jasmine Crockett didn't just win a legal battle, she won a moral victory for every silenced voice. She proved that dignity, armed with intellect, could topple even the mightiest arrogance. This story isn't just hers, it's ours. It's a call to stand tall, to speak truth, to fight with grace. If this moves you, if you believe in justice over power, share this moment. Let the world know what happened here. Subscribe, spread the word, be the ripple that carries this truth forward. Because together, with courage and conviction, we are unstoppable.